Say it now. Say the obvious prediction right now.
The Stars are going to win the Stanley Cup.
Just really quick, headphone warning. 1, 2, 3.
Yes!
Oh my goodness! Okay, all right, I'm good. Thank you guys. Welcome back to Starcaster Remarks. Alongside my brother James, my name is Ryan Chambers. We are the official Dallas Stars podcast of THPN. Go and use that promo code THPN next time you go and use DraftKings Sportsbook. Thank you to them, as always, for being our sponsor of our episode of all of our stuff. And it's absolutely fantastic. The Dallas Stars close out the Vegas Golden Knight, the defending Stanley Cup champions, the LTIR Golden Spleens, however you want to call them, by a final score of 2-1. They win the series 4-3 in one of the most hardest fought series I have ever watched in my entire life. James, let me get your initial thoughts on this. How are you feeling?
Yeah, that series was easily the craziest series I've ever watched. Every single one of those games was a one-goal game if you take away the empty net goals. Every single one of them was literally that much. Itty bitty inches, millimeters, every single game. Missed chances both sides, every single game. Huge saves from both goaltenders in every single game. It was just the entire series was incredibly tight.
All right. And just to get some other thoughts, for those of you who are not paying attention, Chris is actually here. He's just driving back from the game. So, Chris, you're here. People are calling you out for not being here on video, but you were actually at the game. Let me get your thoughts. How was the American Airlines Center?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can.
Could you hear the AAC? It was going berserk. It was crazy.
You couldn't even hear the calls on the third.
Dude, it was insane. The whole last 10 minutes the whole stadium was going berserk. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, first of all, the pregame show, super cool. Probably the best pregame show ever. And then, yeah, that's just an amazing game. Agree with everything you said, James. It's probably the best series we've ever watched from this team. Maybe the best series I've ever watched, period. It was just so back and forth. Even this game, it had everything. Everything you would want, it had. And, yeah, the Stars to fight through from down 2-0, claw all the way back into the series, and win 4 one-goal games is just crazy against the defending Stanley Cup champions who have $10 million more of players on their roster. I mean, that is an absolutely incredible win for the Stars. Incredible series. And man, just like in the regular season, win the Western Conference, what's our reward? Golden Knights. Win the best series you've ever won, what's your reward? Colorado Avalanche, who have just demolished the best goaltender in the NHL. Man, we should have another fun one with a lot more goals in the next 7.
So Chris, I really am very curious about, especially after Brett Howden scored his game tying goal. What was the reaction then? Because I could imagine that a lot of people's hearts just kind of flopped at that point.
Oh yeah, it was definitely stunned silence, and for the next 5 minutes, it was just everyone sitting still, holding their towels the same way I was, and just waiting for something to happen. I mean, it was crushing to see that one go in after all the chances that the Stars had. That second period, Vegas had more pressure probably, but the chances that the Stars had were just over and over, and they were either huge saves by Hill or just complete whiffs. So that was definitely heart-wrenching after seeing all those chances. But yeah, to come back in that third period and score the first minute, absolutely insane.
Yeah, both teams actually having those incredible chances at the other end and then getting scored on. I mean, it's got to be same feeling for both fan bases on that one.
100%.
All right, well, Chris has got to go because he's got to be safe while he's on the road driving. But Chris, I do want to ask you one question. $3.25 million, is that enough?
That's enough. Roddick Fox is worth it.
Oh, yeah.
What a shot.
You must acknowledge Roddick Fox. I need it in words right now, please.
If the Dallas Stars win the Stanley Cup, I am going to buy a Radek Fox jersey.
There we go. Okay, I can live with that. I can absolutely live with that. Okay, Chris, we love you, bud. Be safe driving home, and everyone else stick around. So, Chris, see you later, bud.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Just we need to clip that, James, because he's never gonna say that again.
I mean, the way Fox had played tonight and the way he played early in the series too, till he got hurt. I mean, he looks spectacular on that fourth line, especially. I mean, the forward checking is hard with them, hitting constantly. The Stars actually out-hit the Golden Knights tonight. That didn't happen the entire rest of the series. This is the one night that the Stars out-hit the Golden Knights.
Okay, so we got to talk about there's so much things to talk about now, but we still haven't kind of formulated any plans about, possibly doing an episode maybe tomorrow night. I'm kind of hoping we could do one for a second round series preview against the Avalanche. We'll have to see how that goes. But let's talk about this game for a second, James. And there's so many different, little rabbit holes we can go down. But first things first, we have to acknowledge Roddick Fox, and not just him, but let's include all of the guys that have been on that fourth line all season. They came out on fire. I have never seen a fourth line for the Dallas Stars be this significant in not just this game, James, but this whole series. They have consistently have been one of the better lines, whoever's on that line, in the playoffs, and especially in the second half of the season.
Yeah, it really doesn't seem that it matters too much who is on that line. Even in Game 3, when Fox came out, you throw Delhi and Smith in there, and they just tore it up that game too. I mean, that really was a big point for me, was how well the fourth line played in Game 3 and 4, and they played great the rest of the series as well. And it's not just the series, it's the season, and it's just how the forward lines for the Stars this year have worked. I mean, it's just pressure. Someone's doing better than all the other lines constantly. And when it mattered most, the fourth line was there.
And one of the other things I kind of want to jump into, and this was a sudden realization I had literally right after we won the game. And I asked myself a question, and I asked you this question, James, and of all of our fans, all of our podcast crew, is Wyatt Johnston the new Mr. Game 7? Is Wyatt Johnston the new Mr. Game 7? Justin
The-
Williams has not played for several years now, and that role has been vacant. After Game 7 against Seattle, he has to be. After this game today, he gets the goal scoring going. He has to be Mr. Game 7 right now.
Well, I mean, the stupid thing is he wasn't even Mr. Game 7 this series. He was the dude the entire series. He outscored Jack Eichel. He outscored Jack Eichel, who had the most points in the playoffs last year. And he just beat him, flat out beat him. I mean, they didn't play line to line, but scoring wise, he won the entire way. And a lot of it was just pure grit from Johnston too. It's ways that we don't. He has the same pickoff stuff that he was doing during the normal season, but the hits and the fighting in front of the net for rebounds is not something that we really see from him that often. I mean, we're normally seeing the tips and the rush chances, which he did get, but again, it's the getting in front of the net that got him ahead in this series.
Nate G over here. The kid's the face of the franchise now. Maybe he's including Stankoven in that, but maybe he's just talking about Johnston. But either way, he is the face of the Stars right now in the playoffs. Just like Robertson was last year and the year before that, he is absolutely the face of this franchise right now. Mato answering my question, yes, to the fact that he is Mr. Game 7. Nate also saying Team Canada would be stupid to leave him off. Absolutely. And okay, he is talking about Wyatt Johnston. Okay, good. But like, he is the difference in the series. He is the okay, he's not the difference in the series. There's two.
I mean, he's kind of the difference.
We'll talk about the other guy here in a second. But Wyatt Johnston offensively is the difference in the series when it comes to getting goals, getting assists, and getting this team the offense when they need it, and at key clutch times. And I don't think I have ever seen anybody quite this clutch in my lifetime as a Dallas Stars fan.
Yeah, and the dude's 20.
He can't even drink alcohol. He can't even drink alcohol at a bar. He can't go into casinos and at Vegas, and he couldn't, enjoy the game 3 and 4 wins in the casinos because he wasn't allowed in there.
He was far and away the best player on the Stars roster, and he's the youngest. I mean, it's not even close. It wasn't like there was someone who was matching him offensively at all on our team. There was no one else. It was Wyatt Johnston and then a couple of individuals. I mean, you had Fox in there, Dodonov in there. Robertson had a couple of good goals and assists. He still had a great series as well with how rough of a time Rope Hintz did. But I mean, it was just he was the dude the entire series, and that's just. That's what we saw at the beginning of the season, and it kind of defaulted back to second line and then the first line again, and it's already back to him again. And it's at the most important time of the year when you're not expecting it from. I mean, this is his second season in the league. There's a thing called a sophomore slump in the league where players consistently do worse in their second season, and he has done substantially better.
This is a guy that did not play in the OHL very much because of COVID, and he dropped to the Stars at 23rd overall. If you do a redraft and you look at the 2021 NHL draft, there were some media members, including Stars ones, that were saying that they might even go 1-2 with Wyatt Johnston number 1 and Logan Stankoven number 2, knowing what we know now. That if that doesn't tell you anything, that's ridiculous. Oh, I forgot about this too. Harrison with the tweet of the night. They traded down to get Wyatt Johnston. They traded down. They had a higher draft pick. And they're like, oh, we're still going to get the guy who's going to score one of our goals in Game 7 against the Vegas Golden Knights, who are going to win the Cup in the year before. Just absolutely ridiculous. It's just that you cannot say, and you cannot say enough about this young man. You just can't.
Yeah, and really, the drafting from Jim Nill the last 3 years has been something that no team in the league could really replicate. I mean, it is all from our drafting. The 1-2 players that we don't really draft that are on our team that are big impact right now, besides Chris Tanev, that's the trade. It's Pavelski and Duchesne, and they were virtually absent in the series.
We're gonna get into that here a little bit too, talking about that, but we got to talk about the other side of the puck, and that is absolutely, they can kind of go hand in hand, but one deserves more credit than the other. The team defense of the Dallas Stars showed up in this series. That is the best defense they have played all year long, and it's from the net forward. It didn't matter who it was. I mean, we saw Matt Duchesne blocking pucks. We saw Pavelski making giant, really good defensive plays. Harley had a way better Game 7 than he had Game 6. I mean, Tanev just there was one particular play, and I even went a really super long tweet about this, Chris Tanev, and the fact that there was one play he made where I expected him to pass it, and he was so patient enough, just a split second longer, and it made it be able to be a easier breakout for the Stars team. And I didn't expect that to happen. And so, yes, all the team defense and all of that deserves all the accolades, probably about like 40, 45, maybe 35% of the defense.
Yeah, I mean,
but 65 to 70% of this credit goes to Jake Ottinger. Jake Ottinger in this series, there were times he got beat on pucks that he probably would want back, but he collectively, as the series went along, got better and better and better, despite how Vegas played, despite if they made any kind of differences or changes or anything like that. He continued to be the best player on the ice, not named Wyatt Johnston. You take out his save percentage from Game 1, from Game 2 to Game 7, he has over a 920 save percentage in those 6 games. Just absolutely ridiculous what he's done.
And he didn't let up more than 2 goals the rest of the series. He let in 4 in Game 1 and didn't let up more than 2 the rest of it. That is, I think it's a lot of testament to the team defense, like you said. I think it's more 40-60 for Otter having the 60, but it was spectacular defending from the Stars. Really, they realized that the Vegas Golden Knights goaltending was just shutting them down and playing out of their minds, and they decided that they needed to do that on their end as well. We played Vegas's game in a lot of this series, and we ended up winning.
And it goes to show that this team can play numerous different styles and find a way to win. And this is also an interesting stat. I did not know this, James, going into it, but the Stars had never won a series, like the Dallas Stars, maybe as a franchise they have back in the Minnesota days.
Franchise, they have won 1.
They've won 1, and that was in the Minnesota days. But in the Dallas Stars days, they had never won a series when they lost the first 2 games of the series and went on to win a Game 7. Like they had never done that. And this just everything about all of this, all the stats that came out, and now that Pete DeBoer is 8-0 in Game 7s as a coach, that's again another ridiculous stat. That
Joe Pavelski's 7-3.
7-3, or so.
Or I think it's 8-3 now.
8-3. Yeah. Wait. No, I think it was. Oh no, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. 8-3. He's 8-3 in his career in Game 7. So it's there's so many different stats that we heard in the game here tonight, James. But did you hear any that were like really, really interesting to you, or that you wanted to pick apart?
Well, just from a game stat perspective, do you know who led the Dallas Stars in hits tonight?
I'm gonna guess someone weird like I'm gonna say Robertson.
I'm pretty sure it was Wyatt Johnston.
Really? That the kid can do it all. The kid can do it all.
I mean, it really was a crazy out of nowhere game. The Stars came into this game and out physicaled the Vegas Golden Knights, especially in the third period. When we got up one, we were still pushing. Johnston tried like 4 or 5 times to get an insurance goal too. He wanted that 3-1 score, and Hill stopped it a lot of times, and a lot of unlucky bounces the other way too. But it's just the Stars were pushing, hitting. I mean, they were screaming and kicking all the way to the final minutes.
Oh my goodness! I have to show you this right now. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Hold on. I gotta present this.
Oh no!
It's hilarious.
If you didn't see Ryan's reaction to that, and you're just listening on audio, you might have to go look at that. That's one of the best faces ever.
Okay, are you ready for this, everyone? Are you ready for this? Okay, here you go. It's not bringing it up. Okay, here we go. Here. Look at that. They changed the deserve to win-o-meter on moneypuck.com to didn't cheat on LTIR-o-meter.
Oh man.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry.
So not only was all the fan bases against Vegas, so was MoneyPuck.
It was moneypuck.com. Okay, of course, yeah. I've never seen people be so united in a game against a certain team. That was just funny. Oh my goodness. I love that. But let me pull it back up, because the main reason why I looked this up is because I wanted to see how much this had changed, James. So I'm going to pull it up a little bit bigger for everybody else who's watching online. But at the beginning of this game, or at the end of the second period, I should say, excuse me, the deserve to win-o-meter, it was not anywhere close to this. It was 50.8 to 49.2. So according to MoneyPuck, it was going both ways. And now taking a look at it, the Dallas Stars had a 71% deserve to win-o-meter in this game tonight. What that tells me right there, James, is that the third period was absolutely ridiculous for this team.
That was their best third period of the entire series. I mean, far and away, best third period.
That's the best period I've seen of the whole year, in the way they responded to that goal. They could have leaned back a little bit and played a little bit more conservative, but they
like they did in Game 3. Yeah,
like they did in Game 3. That's true. And just a lot of credit again, Pete DeBoer. Pete DeBoer gets so much credit for whatever he said during that second intermission, or maybe not just Pete DeBoer, but the leadership of this team. Maybe what Jamie Benn said, or Joe Pavelski, or Ryan Suter, or one of these older guys. Maybe one of these older guys said something in that dressing room that really kind of sparked that team and got that fourth line going to get them that, that game-winning goal. So, whoever it was, they're probably the biggest winner for me tonight, despite how many biggest winners you possibly could have chosen. Okay, this one's going to go a little long tonight, James, but I do want to we've talked a lot about a lot of good positive things. Now we need to start looking at some of the negative things that came out of this series, all right? And there's 2 big ones, and I'll mention the first one and kind of let you discuss it on it. The one mistake we made was Nils Lundqvist. Exactly, Harrison. Yeah.
It wasn't the one mistake, but it was the biggest mistake, and it was the easiest. It was one of the easiest goals of the entire series in Game 7, when the Stars had a 1-0 lead with 5 minutes left in the second. 5 minutes left in the second. You're playing a player. You're trying to give him a chance. He's had a he had a terrible series, and this is his worst matchup possible. It really is. The Golden Knights will just abuse your weak side defenseman, and they target that too. They don't just like it's not one of these teams that are just playing and that happens to be the weak link that breaks. They target that weak link and they attack it. And every single time Lundqvist touched the ice, they attacked him on the offensive side of the puck. And I mean, he just it's a mindless play from him, really. He's on the blue line. Golden Knights are coming in on the rush, and he follows no one to the net. It's a pretty. It seems like a really simple thing, but for some reason he just finds a way to mess up a really simple thing. And the simple things is what burns you time after time in your own defensive end, over and over and over again. You have to be able to do the little things well constantly. And that is something that he just could not do and hasn't been able to do.
It was such a momentum killer too, because in my opinion, I don't want to say that went against the flow of play because Vegas was starting to push back there towards the end of the second period, but we deserved way better than what we got in the second period. We were pressing and we had the majority of the chances and everything. It was so frustrating to not get anything out of that period. I thought for sure we were going to get a goal there, especially when we had that extended ozone shift, the Duchesne line out there with Tanev and Essa. I thought
that
for
same
sure
feeling.
we were going to get a goal. I was like, you could feel it as a fan, you could feel it. And then that happens. And this is not...
I couldn't believe that happened, dude.
This is not anything against Nils Lundqvist, but in the limited minutes that you're getting, you know that they're going with a 5-man rotation right now. You cannot allow a season to end on a play like that. You can't. It is Game 7, probably one of the biggest games of your career. Actually, it probably was one of the biggest game of his career. Definitely the one that means the most, I would say. And then you get beat. And he was wide open. Howden was.
Yeah, it's not even close.
So you can't get beat that badly.
It's terrible because
I feel so bad because I'm like hampering on him. But he's gotten so many chances, even just being the 6th defenseman, where you're basically being a bench warmer and you're getting like a 30-second shift like every 17 minutes. And he can't even do that without a goal going in. Oh, I feel so sick and so upset and angry and every single negative emotion all at the same time when it comes to talking about this player.
It's really terrible because he's really spectacular when he has the puck. When he has the puck, Nils Lundqvist is a much better player. It is fully his play without the puck that is just a complete detriment to the team. I mean, it feels like he just blanks, and you just can't have that in a playoff game, in a playoff series where every single game is decided by one goal. One mistake can change the entire game, and that's true in the regular season too. But the Stars were scoring 4 or 5 goals in the regular season, and that was not going to happen in any of these games in this series. It just wasn't, and that was obvious from the get-go too.
And lots of people in the chat are kind of agreeing with us, James. This is not a developmental league. Okay, one of the comments says, I think that's Ardell. You have to play your absolute best in the most critical points. Numerous players have done that. Robertson has he has been a playoff warrior in this series, probably the second best forward on the team behind Wyatt Johnston. Wyatt Johnston kind of stepped up. Tanev stepped up. Ryan Suter stepped up. Did we say anything bad about Ryan Suter this series? Not one single thing. 0 in the last half of the season. We barely said anything bad about Ryan Suter. But who do we keep coming back to? We keep coming back to this player who cannot fill in that 6th defenseman role. And this brings me up to my next question, and it's an easy one for me at least. Chance Johnson, y'all think DeBoer pulls Nils and calls up another defenseman for the next series? First off, Nils cannot be sent down to the AHL without going through waivers. So someone could pick him up and just snatch him up, which we still don't want that because he still has some potential. But there's no way. There is absolutely no way he plays in the next series, maybe even for the rest of the playoffs. I mean,
it's going to take someone getting hurt.
No. Yeah, I would honestly want anybody else except for Nils Lundkvist right now because he almost cost us the series. He could that because his team stepped up and bailed him out, like Ardell says in the comments over there. Perfect comment there. But that could have cost us the series. That momentum could have shifted the complete opposite way, and we could be talking about Vegas going and playing against Colorado in the second round.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that the momentum could have. The momentum did. It was all in Vegas's favor, and it was a fourth line shift, a miracle shift in the first minute of the third period that just flung a puck towards the net, and it went in. And that was the end of the series. That's how the Stars turned it back in their favor. It's so crazy how these games end up because Game 6, if you remember, was very similar. I mean, it constant good defense from both teams, tight, and Golden Knights throw a puck at the net with 10 minutes remaining, bounces off of a defenseman and goes in. And it's near the same exact story in Game 7, where it's tight. There's two bad mistakes, one from each team, one bad turnover to Johnston in the slot. Why would you do that? That's terrible, by the way. That is the worst backhand ever. And then a terrible defensive coverage from Lundkvist. And that's the two goals that were really that I don't know where I'm going with this. But that was Ryan's distracted me with his LTIR joke, but but that's the two goals that were big. And the one that ends the series is a random backhander that deflects off a defenseman and goes far side top corner.
Well, the only problem is as we move on from Nils Lundkvist, I don't think he's playing in the next series. He can't. That's just my personal opinion. You can't trust him, and obviously the coaching staff doesn't trust him. I would be very surprised if he had any shifts in the third period. I bet you he had nothing in the third period.
I don't think I saw him again after that shift.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't have played again. He didn't deserve to.
No, he didn't. There are so many other players that could fill in that role that I think would do at least a better job.
Hanley would be better than Nils Lundkvist right now. And that's
really
what's terrible to think about. I mean, you think you could have 1-for-1 Nils and Tanev for rental? You totally could have. And you hold on to Hanley with doing that too. I mean, it feels terrible to even say that because Nils really is such a great player and he has a ton of skill, but he just can't do it when it matters most. And he's never been able to do it when it matters most. He constantly falters when it matters.
And this is a good point. This is exactly what I was thinking, Lizzie. 100% exactly what I was thinking. Dallas can't roll 5D again. You can't. You just finished a 7-game first-round series against the best team probably coming into the playoffs, Vegas, I would say, with all the players that they had. It's you have to have someone in there. I mean, anybody. Poyat, Bayreuther, Petrovic, Hawkenpaw if he's ready. Bischel if he's ready. I don't think we'll see Bischel, by the way. That's just my personal opinion.
We might. But Bischel is one that will come in if a top defenseman gets hurt.
He has, and Jim Nill did come in and say that there is a possibility we could see him in the postseason. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? I don't think so. So we will have to see. But let's move off of this a little bit because we can talk about it more in our series preview against the Avalanche. But the second thing I wanted to talk about with this series, James, is there were a couple players who just did not show up offensively tonight, and at all in the series. And it's a good thing that the Stars were able to match the style of the Vegas Golden Knights in this series, because the low scoring is the only reason why I think we win this series. We get a goal from our best player, Wyatt Johnston, when we need one, and then we get something from the depth, and we get a couple of saves. That's what we get. But if we are going to beat this next team, and we're going to be exhausted because we're turning around on what is it? I
I
saw
don't
I
know.
saw a
I
game.
haven't seen it yet.
When game one is. I'm pretty sure game one is on Monday. Chat, help us out here.
But yeah, the
And
turnaround's going to be quick and it's going to be tough. And you're like you said, you're fighting against a fully freshened up Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. I mean, that's going to be a real tough one. It's really, you gotta try to expose Georgiev in this one. The Jets had a very tough time after game one doing anything to Georgiev. I mean, they couldn't, it felt like they couldn't touch him. But if the Stars can put him back on his heel early, and that's really what I think, without getting too much into a preview, the Stars need to start next series fast. I mean, we can't we can't go down 0-2. You will not win the series again. No chance. You can't do it twice in a row. It's not going to happen. You got to take the momentum from this series and bring it into games 1 and 2.
And the players I'm obviously talking about, James, Joe Pavelski, we absolutely need him to get going. We really need him to get going. And thankfully, this team has so much depth that we're able to rely on other players like Johnston and Robo. But he's not the only one that needs to get going. Jamie Benn had a very good series, but I feel like he could contribute more offensively, especially being on that line with Wyatt Johnston. And then the big one for me, the big one for me, Rope Hintz. Where has Rope Hintz been? He's got to be fighting something. And if
early series, he was just invisible. I mean, the Golden Knights were just not letting him do anything. And then game 6, he kind of showed up. He just didn't put anything in the back of the net. And then he took that knee to the back of the leg, and it just hasn't been the same since. I mean, you could even see in that game the change in speed he had. This game, it still didn't look like he was quite there. The killer mentality for him is not. It's gone. I mean, it feels like he's just lost it completely. Especially you think about the pass back to Robo. Like, he makes the pass back through, and that's spectacular if Robo can shank it in for an empty netter. But he just got a pass through that defenseman already. And he's not going to take the shot with Hill scrambling to get across. It's just, man, I mean, that was his chance to just put it away and take it himself. And his killer instinct's just gone. That's all I have.
Okay, so we really need those 3 guys in particular to step up. Ben was excellent in this series, especially when it came to physically and the forecheck. And
dude, he couldn't be moved tonight.
He was beast mode Jamie Benn without a majority of the offense there. I mean, that is exactly what you want him to do at this point in his career. He has taken a back seat to being the number 1 guy. He's not that guy anymore. He's not even number 8 anymore, I would say. And he played the way that we need him to, and he has stepped up his play. He has been completely excellent in leading this team. He didn't take a stupid penalty in this series, which was the one thing I didn't want him to do. So thank you for doing that. And he has been excellent, and we're going to need him to contribute more offensively in the next series. So
with how much he didn't contribute offensively, I mean, he was just a literal stone pillar in the middle of the ice anywhere he skated. He couldn't be knocked over. Felt like he won almost every single puck battle. He was pushing people around. It looked easy for him. It looked like he was playing on a playground.
Mm-hmm. Okay, James, I think we need to wrap this up because we're really starting to get into the series preview territory, but and we're also tired, and it's like
I was in a car for 9 hours before I started this. That's why we started late, by the way. I just got out of a car for 9 hours.
We actually didn't start too late, to be honest with you.
No, we didn't. It wasn't too bad.
20 minutes afterwards. So thank you for doing this, James, because otherwise I I would be by myself, just grinning stupidly at a camera. And
I'm glad I got to get back in time for it.
Okay, biggest winner, biggest loser here tonight, James. Let's do it. Let's do it for the series. Biggest winner, biggest loser for the series, James. Who have you got?
I'll take the obvious one because I feel like you want me to. Wyatt Johnston. Wyatt Johnston is by far the biggest winner of this series. I mean, he outscores Jack Eichel 4 goals. Eichel had 3. They both had 7 points. Eichel had the 1 empty netter goal. I mean, it is incredible what Wyatt Johnston did in this series, in a low-scoring series, and where every single one of his goals meant everything to this team. And twice in this series, he scored a goal that got the Stars back into the game. I mean, the Stars were out of it in that first period. For the first 10 minutes, they were getting completely outplayed. Wyatt, Pavelski pressures down deep. Wyatt picks off the pass and just sinks it. I mean, not a doubt that he was going to sink that one, really. It's spectacular. Wyatt Johnston, biggest winner for the series.
James Thomas with a really good comment here. The biggest winner, hockey since Vegas is out. I love it, James. That's a very good comment. For some other ones, Robo, we're from Ardell. We're seeing
Robo
Wyatt.
was a monster this series, specifically with his weight, man. I mean, that is he's straight up played playoff hockey by himself on that top line for most of the series. I mean, he's playing with Hintz, who scored an empty netter, and Pavelski, who didn't put up a point the entire series. And I think Robo still had like 5 points in the series. So it is ridiculous what Robertson did on a line that was struggling in the series.
So there are so many obvious ones that I could choose from, James, to be honest with you. We've talked about Johnston. We've talked about Otter. We've talked about Robertson, Ben even. But here is my biggest winner for the series. Harrison
That's the one
Brown.
I wanted to take.
That's the one I wanted. Chris Tanev has completely, single-handedly changed the complexion of that defense. We complained about, before he arrived, about how weak the defense looked on the Stanley Cup contending team. And with him next to Essa on that top pairing, and without Hakanpää there, and Tanev there instead, everything he does is just so methodical. It is so patient. He is the best defenseman in the NHL. I would argue, like, in
at least for the first round.
Like, he was absolutely fantastic. And
yeah.
you just go look up some of his stats that he's got. He led this team in plus minus, which is a flawed stat, fair. But over a period of time, it's still something good to look at. And he was playing a majority of the big minutes against the top line. Go and look at the stats for the game. He was playing a majority of the time against Marchessault, Eichel, and Hurdle. That top line that was so dangerous for Vegas. And for the most part, after games 1 and 2, was able to pretty much shut them down. 2 goals or less in every single game after game 1. So
yeah, and really,
it was a period of strength. We are talking about it as a strength now. We had problems scoring goals in this series. You know what we didn't have a problem of? Getting the puck out of our own zone with the 5 defensemen we had.
Yeah, that's really where I was gonna go with my statement really quick. I mean, we essentially have Miro number 1, and then you have Harley number 2, and those are the obvious 1, 2. And then the other 3, Lindell, Tanev, Suter, all right there. And that is what lets us run 5 like that. Because all 3 of those dudes played absolutely spectacular. And playoff Suter is just something else, man. I as long as Suter can sustain it through this time, if he can keep it up, then you can run 5 like this. You can. It is not like likely. If one gets hurt, then you're screwed, right? But it's big if everyone stays healthy and Suter keeps playing the way he is, playing 5 all the way through this playoff season is very possible. And it looked great, honestly.
So, news on Hakanpää. He is
None.
still day to day, but they said he was day to day 2 weeks ago at the beginning of the series. So I think it's more than that.
This is
I don't
also
know.
one where you're looking, and if you take Hakanpää, you put him back in, re-injury is highly likely against a team who just there's so much hatred between these two teams. They've played so against each other so much in the past 3-4 years. It is that was just a spectacular series. You couldn't have asked for more.
All right, James. Don't pick the obvious one, okay? Biggest
I'm not.
loser.
I got a good biggest loser. So biggest loser for the whole series. Missed opportunities. Both teams tons of times missed open nets, hit posts, just whiffed on shots. In this game alone, I mean, Marchessault hit the post before it went back the other way. They turned it over, and Wyatt Johnston scores. That is the biggest goal of the entire series, and Marchessault should have scored first. That play should have never happened. And then you talk about Jack Eichel at the end of the second period. Makes a beautiful dangle play. I hate that player, by the way. He's so good. He's so good. Jack Eichel is so good. He makes a beautiful dangle, shrugs off Smith, gets around Otter, and misses the net. I mean, that's their 2-1 goal right there. Misses the net. It's just little things like that. You handcuff on Robertson. You had multiple times in the series where Pavelski had chances to bat it in with his hand-eye coordination that he prides himself on. You had just lots of chances. Stankoven, yeah, especially Stankoven in Game 6 had 4 or 5 chances, grade A chances that he just didn't get shots on at all. It is missed opportunities. Too. Yeah, missed opportunities was the whole series. I mean, both teams missed tons of goals.
All right, and then for me, I'm gonna steal Davis's over here in the chat because I like to pick on him, because I don't like him because he is a good player, but man, if you're a
punch
Vegas
to the
fan,
face in Game 5, man.
In Game 5, that's gonna live nightmares for the next 3 or 4 months until the next season starts. I mean, it has to. Pietrangelo with that punch to the face of Tyler Seguin that allowed the Stars to go up 3-2 on that Robertson power play goal. The stupidest, most selfish play I had ever seen since the Jamie Benn cross check to the back on Mark Stone.
Yep.
So now,
I mean, that is
not as bad as Jamie Benn's.
In severity, yes, in terms of like how bad like it was, but in terms of the turning point of the series, I mean, it's virtually the same thing. It's still a little different because it's just up 3-2 instead of the Knights went up, I think, 3-1 off of that. But that is the turning point of the series, really, was that power play goal by Robertson. There's so much in this series that the Stars just had to keep hammering down over and over and over again. They dug themselves into almost the deepest hole that you can get in against the defending Stanley Cup champions, and they dug all the way out of it and then win it in 7 in a 2-1 fashion. I mean, it is. I don't have anything more to say about this series. It's going to be one of the most memorable for me.
James.
Are you back now, Ryan?
Sort of, kind of. Am I back?
Oh, you're back. You're good.
Okay. Well, it lasted 48 minutes. That was good enough.
That was good. Good run. Good run.
Yeah, good run, Starlink. Thank you, Starlink. Okay. Anything else, James?
That's one of the best series ever. I'm never going to forget that series. Regardless of what happens, that was the best series ever.
Thank you guys, all of you who are listening live. We have had up to 158 people here listening and watching live here tonight. Thank you so much for doing that. There's even more of you who are listening afterwards. We appreciate you guys as well. As always, thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook. Use that promo code THBN. Go and check out StarcastCircuitMarks.com for all the latest news on our podcast. It's the first place where our podcast gets posted. And as always, we thank you guys again and never take for credit how much you guys have sprungboarded us. And we never thought people would truly care about, us talking about Stars hockey like this. Again, seriously, from the bottom of our hearts, we really, really sincerely appreciate it. Alongside James, my name is Ryan. We're not going home. Round 2 starts on Tuesday. We'll see you guys on the flip side. Hope you guys have a good, fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you guys are listening. James, do us a favor and take us out.
That's 4 down, boys. 12 more. GG, boys.